Hey guys, I'm back with another one, and this time I'm comparing the iPhone SE versus the Samsung S10e. The iPhone sucked, I returned it. Spoiler alert. Now let's get started. The iPhone came out a couple of months ago in 2020, whereas the S10e came out in 2019, Q1-ish, I want to say February. So keep that in mind as we continue. And let's start off with the price. The iPhone SE starts at $600 Canadian for the 64 gig variant off of Apple's website. Not bad. The S10e, however, I know it's a year old, just hear me out, starts at $540 off of Amazon's website. This is all Canadian. And Amazon being Amazon, you're going to get it sooner. It also comes with a 90-day warranty, whereas the iPhone doesn't. I think it's 30 days? 14? I don't know what it is. I think it's less. So there's that. Now, let's keep that price in mind as we go on to discussing some of the other features, including the physical dimensions, and go on from there. In the hand feel, the iPhone, for some reason, feels a little bit more premium. It might just be simply the way that the edges are, or the corners, or the sides, whatever the heck you want to call it, they just feel nicer. Now, as far as actual specs and numbers, I can tell you that the iPhone is a couple of grams lighter than the S10e. We're talking 1 or 2, honestly. Either in terms of height and width and thickness, the iPhone is just a little bit smaller than the S10e. Now let's get into the actual look of the phones. The SE obviously has a fingerprint scanner on the bottom of the front, which takes up a lot of the space, whereas the S10e's fingerprint scanner is on the power button on the right-hand side, which really sucks if you're a left-handed person. Obviously the screens, I'm going to get back to that in a couple of seconds, but the iPhone screen is 4.7 inches and the S10e screen is 5.8. It's an inch difference. It's crazy. In addition to that, the S10e also has 2 cameras on the back, whereas the iPhone SE has 1. More on that in a second. And as far as ports go, the S10e has a USB-C port and, yes, an actual headphone jack. Whereas the iPhone just has the lightning port at the bottom, and that's about it. Now moving on to the actual screen. Like I mentioned, the iPhone screen is 4.7 inches versus the S10e's 5.8 inch screen. Now the S10e screen is an AMOLED display, which is amazing. Colors are vibrant and rich and everything looks fantastic. Samsung is, bar none, one of the best display makers in the industry. I don't know if Apple's display is the Samsung display, but it's an LCD display and it sucks. It's good enough, you know, it manages to get the job done, and you really don't know the difference unless you juxtapose the two devices, and even then, not a lot of people care. If you want an iPhone for cheap, you're going to deal with an LCD screen. That's just how that works. Moving on from the screen, I also did a benchmark. The iPhone is such a stupid fast, amazingly capable processor versus the S10e's is, you know, good enough for now. The iPhone SE absolutely demolishes the S10e, hands down, no contest. Which is great, and that means that the iPhone SE is going to last you much longer than the S10e is. So moving on to the camera, the iPhone SE has a 12 megapixel shooter on the back. It's their wide lens, not ultra, it's normal. It's nothing crazy. But the iPhone SE can do 4K video at 60 FPS with image stabilization. I mention that because the S10e cannot. The S10e, while having 2 shooters, a 12 megapixel and a 16 megapixel for the ultra wide, can't do image stabilization at 60 FPS 4K, but it can at 30. Which might be enough for most people. I will say that the image quality and the video quality on the S10e is good. iPhone is better when there's enough light. But in low light situations, it's a little bit different. The S10e has a night mode, and it also has a portrait mode, which is not the greatest, but it does do a little bit better in terms of low light performance when compared to the iPhone SE. On the front, you have 10 megapixels on the S10e and 7 megapixels on the iPhone SE, whereas the iPhone SE is only capable of 1080p at 30 FPS front video recording. The S10e can do 4K at 30. Now, before I move on to the last and most important part of these phones and my conclusion, let me also mention, if you care, call quality is pretty good. Both phones have stereo speakers, earpiece is good, mics are good. I haven't had any complaints in my trials and testing of both these devices. Now, moving on to the biggest thing that made me decide to return the SE, the battery life. The iPhone SE has an 1800 and change milliamp hour battery versus the S10e's 3100 milliamp hour battery. On the S10e, the phone lasted me until about midnight, no problem. And then I'm down to like 25%, whereas the iPhone SE would run out of juice by around 6 or 7 p.m. on a typical day. Now, like I mentioned before in one of my other videos, I'm not I don't game, I don't do anything crazy. Like, I'll browse the internet once or twice, I'll watch a YouTube video, I'll watch my kid on the baby camera, And that's about it. A couple of phone calls throughout the course of the day. You know, typical adult phone usage. Alright, so all that stuff aside, in conclusion, I'll say this. The iPhone SE is a good phone if you want a cheap iPhone and you're comfortable with using the same old phone that you've been using for the last 5 years. That thing looks... oh my god, it's so boring. Whereas the S10e is amazing. It's such a cool piece of technology. See how crappy the fingerprint scanner is? You get a full display. This phone feels like not, okay, maybe it doesn't feel like the future, but it feels like 2020. The iPhone SE feels like a 3-year-old phone. It feels like the iPhone 8. Not only does this not have a larger screen, it also has no notch. It also has a little hole punch in the display, and it's such an immersive experience to watch a video and it take up the whole screen. That's amazing. The iPhone SE doesn't do that. But man, it feels so old. And the biggest thing that really irritates me about iPhones, and I'll make another video on this if anybody cares, nobody cares, is that if you take a picture of, I don't know, your child, or a beautiful scene, or, you know, like a thing, like a coffee you drank, you can't put it on your wallpapers in the iPhone without it being occluded and covered by an icon. Whereas in this thing, you can put a wallpaper of your child and see their face. I don't ask for much. Honestly, I'm such... oh my god. It's such a stupid thing for the iPhone to feel so old when you can get something like this that's a year older and it can do better and it feels better and it's just cooler. Anyways, maybe that's important to you. Or maybe you don't care. Maybe you're fine with using an iPhone SE like most people are. That's cool too. Leave it in the comment section below. Let me know if you're going to look at picking up the S10e renewed off of Amazon, or you're going to pick up the iPhone SE, or maybe you're waiting for the iPhone 12. Like, I'll admit, even I'm waiting for the iPhone 12. If they can fix some of the things, oh my god, just wallpapers. I'd be all over it. I'd be an iPhone user through and through, and I love the UI and everything, but for now, I'm using the S10e, and it feels nice. Thanks so much for watching, guys. I'll see you next time.